Here.
It's so fun to chat with you. Thank you for being here. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do?
So my name is Ricki Steiner / Ricki Granovitz, but I have not adapted to my married name yet. So we have a combination of both. Officially, I work in marketing for a luxury hotel company. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, but I live in Teaneck now. So I have that cool combo of out of town life, living in town life now. Yeah, that's kind of me.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I know that when I was following you, you were living in Ohio. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between living in Ohio, where I believe there's less Jews over there, as opposed to living in New Jersey? Like
Yeah,
that
so I
switch?
think, yeah, so when you were following me, I was back in Ohio for a while just taking care of my mom, but officially I was living in New York City. I'm from Cleveland. Obviously, different cities in Ohio have different Jewish communities, and they are quite different. The Jewish community in Cleveland has completely blossomed into something that I almost don't recognize over the past like 10 years. At the community I grew up in is a very open-minded, beautiful, modern Orthodox community. The school there is amazing. The shuls there are amazing. Very, very accepting. It's really a beautiful community. There is a lot of overlapping between each different like box of Judaism, if you will, which I haven't necessarily experienced in other communities. Living in Teaneck there's just so much more. Like I could walk down the street, go to 5 different restaurants, go shopping for clothing, go shopping for Judaica. Like kosher only grocery stores was not a thing that I knew from. I live in what's considered to be the young couples community, which is really like a blend of every type of person ever, and it's really fun. It's really cool to meet people. Because of COVID, like we haven't met a lot of people yet, but we're still working on it. But the actual like community, I don't know so much about. It's really just like my little bubble.
So you were just talking about taking care of your mother at that time. For those who don't know what happened with your mom, can you share your story about what happened
Yeah.
with your mom?
So like, oh gosh, I don't even know like the timing so well. My mom passed away 3 years ago, and she was officially diagnosed with cancer, I guess, 3 years prior. Um, she didn't have a specific type. She had tumors like all over her body. She had some in some specific areas. And we got to a point in her sickness where she had some complications from a procedure that they had done. And there was basically just like no coming back from that, as well as like tumors that just like would not go away. So we had a situation where it was kind of like, come home now, like this is it. And I ran home. And the doctors were able to like literally a miracle happened over 24 hours. It was the craziest experience I ever had, seeing my mom at what really seems like death's door and then witnessing her wake up like 12 hours later. It was insane. And the doctor sent us home and we're basically like, there is this thing that's going to keep happening. You're going to have to keep coming back to the hospital to take care of her. She needs 24-hour care, but for now, like you have your mom. Every day was literally a miracle. And we're told like 3 weeks, a month. She made it 6 months, which was incredible. I took care of her all day, and then we had nurses come at night because sleep is a thing.
Yeah.
But it was really dumb, but I was working full time remotely as well as taking care of her all day, which is like, I don't recommend it. I had just started a new job. I wasn't really eligible for paid leave. It was just an insane situation. But for like the caretakers out there in the world, like that is the craziest thing you could be in, to like be working and taking care of someone you love who needs so much like emotional and physical attention. It's an impossible situation.
I mean, right now you're talking about it because it happened, but at that time when you were going through it, Can you tell us a little bit about, all the emotions that you were going through, how your relationship with God was at the time, and how you went through that, you know,
Yeah.
unpredictability?
It was really crazy. I mean, there was no like decision made. I kind of just like went back to Cleveland and then never left. And it was kind of just like, you're here, so you're going to take care of her. I explain it as like a 6 month long adrenaline rush. Like I was always on, I was always anticipating the next thing, watching and listening. Like there just was not a moment where like my body was capable of resting. And that's really what kept me going. Like that was, I needed that fuel. Like otherwise, like I just couldn't. There was so much that had to happen. um my emotions were a wreck because I had no time to acknowledge them. It was just a lot of like, I can't deal with this right now, I can't deal with this right now, like push off, push off. And I remember even speaking to like my parents' friends and them being like, you have to like figure, like you have to deal with something, you're gonna explode. And I was like, I'm aware, like I fully knew that I was being completely unhealthy with my emotions at the time, but there was no space for them, there was no time. Like I just had to get through what was right in front of me, and I dealt with it later. um Religiously, spiritually, my connection with Hashem at the time was actually extremely strong, which seems like almost counterintuitive because we were in a situation where I knew there was nothing left to be done, and that no matter what happened at the end of whatever time we had, like my mom was absolutely 100% going to die. Like there was no other possibility out there. But I somehow like I almost feel like that was like the strongest my spirituality had ever been. Like I was spending so much time just having like these open conversations with God, which I still do. And I was able to have like a very strong like connection and feeling at that time. Like every little thing that happened, I was like, oh my gosh, Hashem is like sending me this sign. Like, oh my gosh, like, isn't it incredible how Hashem is like just giving us so much. Every tiny thing, I was able to see him all day long, every day. And I think I really inherited that from my mom. And the crazy thing is my mom was going through so much and she had the same exact like opinion. I have a video of her actually saved on my phone. We're in the hospital. I don't know how I caught this moment on camera. And I don't even know why I was filming. We're in the hospital. She had just gone through an appointment that did not go well. She was a mess. She was on the phone with her friend, and her friend's asking her what's going on. And you see my mom is kind of like moving back and forth. She's clearly in a lot of pain. She's clearly in a lot of discomfort. And she just says straight into the phone, every day is a bracha. You're sitting there and you're like, how are you like looking at life that way now? That was probably a month before she passed away. Like it was really the end of the end. But that hurt. Like spirituality kept me spiritual. My father and my brother were more angry and dealing with those emotions and disconnected. But I was like fully like, God is right next to me.
That is so beautiful, so interesting, and that you've acquired that from your mother.
Yeah.
You often see that when hardship hits people, people either go like straight up to Hashem, they're very, very, they get closer, or the opposite. And I see the opposite much more often,
Yeah.
unfortunately, where people are like, what's up? Like, what's up with that? If
Yeah.
the good things are not going to happen, I don't have to believe in you. This is a lot of the mentality of people who unfortunately go through hardships. So the fact
Yeah.
that you felt closer, religion was not like a give and take for you. It's like you believe in God and you had emunah no matter what was going on. And that's
Yeah.
really
Exactly.
remarkable, Ricki. You do talk a lot about going through grief and pain and sadness on your page. Um, what kind of advice can you give to other people who have lost a loved one?
It's really hard to give like generic advice in this area because I truly, truly believe that grief is really different for each person. My first advice is always like, get a therapist, like for real, get a therapist, deal with this, or a group setting, something where you could deal with people who really know what you're going through, because so many people don't, especially when you're young. Like, none of my friends knew how to talk to me or what to say, and I can't blame them for that. And even like, you know, even when you look to somebody older, like my parents' friends, although they're all amazing, like it's not always like, no one really knows what to say to you. No one knows what to do with you. And with grief, I find the craziest things start popping up, and you start thinking like, what the heck is happening to me? So having that professional tell you like, this is normal, like you're fine, like you need time to heal, and here's some things you can do to help yourself, I think is so important. I didn't go right back to therapy after my mom passed away. It took me a few months to go back, because it kind of felt like I was okay for a while. And then I woke up one day and I was like, whoa, I'm not okay. But it can kind of trick you like that. Like you can kind of, I've heard this from other people too, like right after you kind of like, you're still kind of in it and everybody's still very focused on you, so you're able to kind of get by. But then when the messages stop coming in and life kind of goes back to normal, and you're still suffering so much pain, and then all of a sudden like you're having weird dreams, or you're never hungry, or like you get headaches more often, like whatever kind of weird, because it's such a full body and mind experience. Like it's just really helpful to make sure that you are armed with the knowledge that whatever you're experiencing is normal. Because if there's something that's not normal, like you need to know to take care of it.
How does grief show up to you today?
Oh my gosh. It's 3 years later, almost in January, it'll be 3 years. Like it's in the strangest ways. Like I'll be talking about something that seems pretty innocent and having a conversation with my husband. And then all of a sudden, 5 seconds later, I'm crying about how much I miss my mom. Like it can come up in the weirdest ways.
You
A
speak
lot
about
of
dreams too.
Yeah. I've been one of those people I am one of those people who has weird dreams. I've been like that my entire life. My family is really spiritual about it, which is like, if you knew my family, you'd be confused, because it's like not my family at all. But like, I've always dreamt of, and my brother too, we always have had dreams of the people that my family has lost, whether it be like grandparents, I lost my uncle, whether it be family friends. Like my brother has like very, very clear visitation dreams. Mine are a little bit more murky, but I also suffer from like Holocaust related dreams. My brother likes to say that I dream people's memories. I don't know, but it's weird, like full on, like full out stories I dream.
Because your
Um,
grandparents were Holocaust survivors?
yeah, all
Right,
four.
all four.
Yeah. So it's just always been like that. I've always had like just strange dreams. And like I'm too spiritual to not believe that there's like something there. And I do dream about my mom all the time. It comes and goes. Sometimes I don't see her for a while. Sometimes I don't remember. It's just a feeling, but like it's really a lot. Um, it's a lot for me. I don't love it, but it's also really special to have those moments. And
Right,
whether it's my subconscious, whether it's real, I don't really care. Like to
right.
me, it feels real.
And whenever that experience hits you, whether it's through a dream or you have a memory of her, do you just accept that feeling and let it flow? Like, what do you do with it when it hits you?
With the dreams, it's like it's so draining. Like I wake up in the morning and I feel like I literally traveled to a different dimension. Like it's an exhaustion I cannot even explain. Some I share, some I don't. Like sometimes there are things that feel like this is just for me. Sometimes I'm unable to talk about it. Usually I do share them with my brother and my father. But it's hard. And lately it's been happening so often. And it's just like, a glimmer here, a shot there. Like it's impossible to even talk about. I just know that like when I wake up in the morning, like, okay, today's going to be a little bit harder. So I need to make sure I'm taking time, being more gentle with myself. I mean, now that I'm working from home, I have the ability to like take breaks and lay down and make sure that like my body and my mind are resting.
Right. So I actually want to ask you, because you've been very open about dealing with anxiety. I'm not sure if you've spoken about depression, but I know as a fact that you've spoken about anxiety on your
Mhm.
page, which I think pre-COVID was more taboo, but now like after COVID, post COVID, or during COVID, and everyone's saying they have anxiety.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are your thoughts on anxiety, um, and what helps you manage your anxiety?
Yeah. So I suffer from anxiety, which interesting about me is I don't suffer from depression. I'm genuinely like a very upbeat, happy person. Just like a chill, upbeat person. Like I don't get very excited and like loud. I've
But
been
I know
talking
you
about
were open about depression with other people, which we'll talk about what you do
yeah,
on your
yeah,
page.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But not for myself.
yeah.
I really don't suffer from it. Thank God that's not my struggle. In terms of anxiety, I've been talking about it for so long. I forgot that people like still have taboos about it just because I've always been so open. To me, it's not like a bad thing. And also, especially now, like so many people, so many more people are being diagnosed with anxiety. You know, anxiety can be situational, it can be short term, or it can be something that's more long term with how it is with me. Um,
When did you
it came
realize you have it?
it came out for me when I was 19. I went to seminary and then I went back to Israel to do Shirut Leumi, and I thought I was going to make Aliyah and stay there. And it was just like not a good situation at all. And it's very common for anxiety to come out when you're like really on your own for the first time. It was definitely hiding under the surface for many years, but you know, I was home and cared for, and it just never really came out. And then it was like I was drowning in it. And I eventually, you know, I lasted a few months in Israel, eventually came home. And that year is like a blur. Like I barely remember it. I was being unfortunately very over medicated, and I was like in therapy multiple times a week. I was just like, it was a mess. I was over medicated to the point where like I couldn't really get out of bed and like function, but none of us really knew what was going on. It was so new for everyone. And it just took a while to realize like what was happening because
Can I
everyone just
ask you
thought it.
something? Sorry, I tend to interrupt my interviewees.
No,
Um, how did you know that what you were like? What were you feeling exactly at that time that you knew this was anxiety?
so I didn't. I was basically having like in a constant state of panic attack, and I just didn't know what was going on, but I knew that it was awful. Um, I My brother lives in Israel, so I leaned on him a lot for support, but like still like no one really knew what was going on. And randomly, like I was walking in Jerusalem and I ran into the daughter of the rabbi who runs the seminary I went to. And she was going through literally the exact same thing and had just quit her Shirut Leumi program. We started talking and she was basically like, you need to come home with me. Like, we need to take care of you. And like, I did. I like went home with her to my rabbi, and like his wife took care of me, like, and ended up helping me like quit my program. At first I paused it. This was like such a crazy situation. And for anybody who's thinking about Shirut Leumi, like 1000% do more research than I do.
For those people who don't know what Sherut Leumi is, can you just explain what that is?
Yeah, so in Israel, there's like a public service that's available mostly to girls instead of going to the army, but it is available to men too. And there's a million different things you could do, ranging from like being a tour guide to like working in a hospital, which is what I did. Working in schools is very popular. The second year is like what people might be more familiar with, which is when like girls from Israel come over to America and run certain programs. So that happens like a second year. But I was working in Hadassah and Karam. I was one of like 70 girls there. I was living in an apartment that was like teeny tiny with a million girls and like this whole building, and like it was just like a disastrous situation. And it just I've heard that things have changed in the way that it's being run for American girls that want to do shiur leumi is very different now, which is great because it was terrible when I was there. But I like went to that person in charge of like the American girls and basically was like, I need to take care of my mental health. Like, this is so bad. Like, I'm suffering so much. Can I just like pause for a while? And she was like, yeah, but you need to go to this specific like therapist, which was like a friend of hers. And he was absolutely horrible, like beyond. And he wasn't like, I remember after, my dad's a psychologist. So I remember afterwards, like talking to him, and like his credentials were like kind of sketch. And it was just a really, really bad situation. He put me on medication right away in Israel that he like shouldn't probably have done. And I don't even know how he was like allowed to prescribe it to me. And I was like sort of like living at like, not at that point, I was spending a lot of time back in my seminary. And like also at one point I like moved into a different teacher's house for a while, like until I was able to go home and just like hanging around seminary. Like they really took care of me and like got me back home and like helped me talk to my parents about what was going on, like helped me realize that like this psychologist was like, or he wasn't a psychologist, this like therapist was like terrible. Like thank God like I had that support system, because I was just like totally panicked and I had no idea what was going on with me.
Right. And from that experience till today, how do you cope with anxiety?
Yeah. So after that, you know, I started going to therapy. For a while, I was seeing someone who wasn't necessarily right for me, but kind of worked at the time. He was helping me more with just like the scientific side of therapy, but I really needed someone to like talk me through day-to-day life. So when I moved to New York City and things like for a while things were okay, but then once I moved out of my parents' house again, moved to New York City, like tried to have like a life in my 20s. I was like 21 at that point, 22 I think. I found my own therapist who I've been with now on and off for years. Like since I was 22, I'm 29 now and I still see the same therapist. Like the thing that I need most in my life is someone to talk through life situations and how to deal with them. Like when people ask me what therapy does for me, I tell them, first of all, it taught me how to be an adult. Like all the things that people joke about, like, oh my gosh, why don't they teach you that in school? Like I learned in therapy. Like it helped me understand like social dynamics in such a strong way, like how to just interact with people. Like there's so many times that I would walk into my therapist's office and say, this is a situation that happened and I don't know how to deal with it. So what do I do? Like, how do I deal with it? Like it really, like, she just helped me so much understand like people and like life. And then I picked up like working with her. I also, you know, see a psychiatrist, like working with her, like you pick up different things to like try and do whatever, and you learn what works for you. For example, like, you know, people love to joke like how I'm so obsessed with candles and like always buying candles and like, Ricki, stop buying candles. But like the truth is they help me. It's a grounding, like sensory, you're engaging a sense. It's a really helpful tool for me. If I'm feeling really yucky one morning, I light a candle and all of a sudden like my day is better. Like I'm really into weighted blankets. Like I know that I'm a very sensory person, so I have a lot of soft things around the apartment. Like I just learned by trying what would be helpful, but it's also important to know yourself and know like what wouldn't be helpful. For example, like most people are going to look at me and they're going to say, oh, you have anxiety, you should try meditation. But actually, because of a lot of like the different trauma that I've been through, like meditation has been told to me would be like the worst thing. Like
That's
looking
interesting.
that like trying to like be one with yourself and look inside and shut the world away, like because I have a tough time grounding, like it could be a really horrible experience. So that's something that I know to stay away from. Like I don't ever go near things like that. Like, you have to learn about your body and mind because everyone truly has like such a different experience. And I tell people all the time, like, I can tell you what works for me, but like I can't guarantee you that it's going to work. And I've been dealing with this for years. Like I've been working so hard for so many years. Like I think a lot of people still think like, shoot, like I'm feeling so anxious, I'll just go to therapy for like a month and she'll tell me what to do and like then I'll be better. But like it can be a lifelong journey.
So okay, I don't know how to phrase this question. So, I mean, I do notice at a very, very young age, I am a toddler teacher. So I see different character types, extroverted, introverted, um, sensory types, people who need a lot of stimulation, people who don't need a lot of stimulation from a very, very young age. Do you think that certain challenges and issues come from that young age, or it's something that gets triggered through trauma or something like that? Like, for example, with me, I know as a fact, like when I was younger, I definitely needed like occupational therapy. Something with like, I'm not good with like my fine motor skills as
Mhm.
much. But I feel like if I got it early on, it would have helped me become a more like adult. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, where do you think it comes from? Are there certain types of people who need therapy more than others? Like, just from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I can't give it any kind of professional opinion on
No.
this. This is purely just like my feelings and thoughts. I mean, there are lots of different reasons why this happens. There's 100% like a biological component. These things are inherited. My dad suffers from anxiety. He suffers from depression. He passed that right along to me. I have belief that some of my grandparents suffered from these things. There's obviously transgenerational trauma in my family, and it's scientifically like proven, like there's studies that families who have like transgenerational trauma, it's more likely that later generations are going to suffer from anxiety or depression. So I 1000% think that like for me personally, a lot of this is biological and there was just like nothing I can do about it, unfortunately. But that actually helps me understand things better because it's sort of like it's not my fault. It's just, and it's no one's fault. It's just something that like it exists. There are people that obviously suffer from trauma as a child. Thank God I had a beautiful childhood. Um, Definitely not traumatic at all, but it can come out, of course, from trauma or different life experiences. There are people that, like I said, move out of the house for the first time and all of a sudden all this stuff is happening. And like maybe nobody else in their family suffers from anxiety. That 1000% happens too. And I know there are a lot of studies out there. And again, like I'm not an expert. I just think it's like anything could happen. And
Yeah.
it's helpful to just like know that this is a thing that exists in the world and it's okay and it's normal and you could live a beautiful life and be an amazing person. But it does happen and sometimes it's not so clear like why.
Right.
I don't know. I just say like, I don't know, it's in my DNA.
Right. Right. So something I do love about your page, Ricki, is that your page kind of became like a forum for various types of
Yeah.
people to talk about different issues or challenges that I think specifically in the Jewish community and also in the broader world. Um, so what motivated you to create your page as a forum to discuss these so-called taboo topics?
So I used to do these kind of like conversations when I first started getting like more involved in Instagram, like a couple of years ago. And it was funny because then I had like maybe 500 followers and still it was like really fun. It was mostly my friends or people that I knew from different like walks of life. And then I kind of stopped because I couldn't think of anything to talk about anymore. And then during like this time, like, I don't know, that just, there's just so much more happening. And I feel like now more than ever, people are craving an outlet to share or a way to share. People want to have these conversations. So I somehow fell back into it. I basically, a follower of mine tagged me in a post on her story that basically was like, she tagged a few people and she said, thank you for normalizing like a crying selfie and like erasing taboo things. And I reposted it and I said something like, you know, this is making me wonder, like, are there other taboo topics that you guys want to talk about? And I was flooded, like flooded. And I realized like, people really want to talk.
Oh,
People
yeah.
are like now really ready more than ever to like have these tough conversations. And like, I'm fascinated by people and what they think and their opinions and how they view the world. So for me, it felt very natural to sort of just be like, hey, tell me about this thing, and just get everybody to start sharing and talking and whatever. And I think other people who try to do similar things get a little bit too caught on sharing like from their own perspective. So it gets kind of tricky because you have to really take yourself out of it. Like, it's really not about you when you're having these conversations. And even sometimes, like, I'm not perfect. Like, I make that mistake too. I just think in general, I'm much less focused on myself and much more focused on other people. That's just like genuinely my personality. Like, I had to learn how to focus on on myself.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for me to fall into that space and just make it all about what everybody else thinks. And I had to kind of learn how to, like, there was a learning curve for sure. Like, I really had to learn how to do it right. But I don't know, it's really fun. It gives me something to do. And sometimes I fail. Like, sometimes I post things and no one cares. Like, it doesn't always work.
I mean, for the most part, that's why I follow you as one of the first accounts on my stories.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to these like huge, big influencers with 20,000, 30,000 followers. I'm going to people like you because you're genuine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
And I crave that content too. Like, more and more every day. Like, I go back to the same influencers I've been following and I'm like bored. Like, it's boring. Like, I want you to talk to me like I'm a human. And I'm craving, I follow a lot of smaller people and like I'm craving more of that. Like, every day I'm like, how do I find these people? Like, I want more people like me.
the smaller people are actually the bigger people, right? I think
In
so.
a way,
Yeah.
yeah. It's just a different like approach, you know. I don't want 10,000 followers and swipe ups and brand deals, whatever. Like, that sounds terrible to me. Like,
Okay.
I
So
really don't want that life.
okay, so Ricki, let's talk about that actually, because I know you've been open about your thoughts regarding like this influencer culture. I mean, you are in marketing yourself. You said you work for
Yeah.
like a boutique hotel firm,
Yeah, kind
right?
of.
So you do marketing for that.
Hmm.
Can you tell us what you find wrong right now with this whole like all the brands and the influencers, what they're doing and how they can improve their sales or their eyeballs without reverting to, you know, specific tactics that are tacky?
Yeah, I mean, I think where a lot of influencers are struggling right now is they're not like adapting to the current situation. Because the truth is, like, people are shopping less. They don't want to look at dresses every day. Like, they kind of just want to experience you as a human. But I don't have like a good answer for how to solve for that right now, because like, it is a very new, weird place to be in. Like, brands need to show their content, influencers need to work with brands, and I totally get that. Everybody needs to make money, everybody needs to do their job. But I do think like some are not adapting and figuring out how to like mix it up a little bit and like come on in a sweatshirt and like a tichel and like not all made up, or like show their messy house or whatever it is. Like, I do think that there is like, you have to, I think that not showing your real life, like only being snapshots, I don't think that that's like working anymore, at least for right now. And I know that there are people that are like really suffering, or not suffering, sorry, struggling to figure out how to like keep up their like glamorous, luxurious Instagram, which I have no problem with. If you're that type of blogger, that's totally fine. But I do think you have to like start letting real life seep in a little bit more, because it's not working. And it's not, this is not exclusive to the firm world. Like, it's interesting to watch it with like big, huge, like I'm talking about like these kids that are like big, huge, like YouTubers and whatever, that I'm like fascinated by their lives. Like, even they're struggling. Like, more and more people are uninterested in their luxury life, the same way that we're lusting after these like huge makeup YouTubers and whoever else. Like, people are like, oh, I'm so tired of seeing this kind of stuff. Like, but I don't really have, the answers for that, because that's still really new, and that's not something that I've like really experienced with marketing. I work for a luxury company, and it's hard for us too.
Right, right. I know you also spoken about giveaways, your opinion on giveaways. So it's a very hard balance, because I know that people need more followers in order
Yeah.
to get more eyeballs so that they can charge more money. It's a whole big thing. And we all know that the algorithm is extremely sucky. So is there any other way that influencers and brands can gain followers without, reverting to giveaways? Because they know that everybody's sick of these giveaways.
Oh
But
my
they
God,
keep on
so sick.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a few things I have to say about this. Like, I'm not 1000% anti-giveaway. My biggest hang up with the giveaways, and I also want to make the distinction of, I love when people do like the private giveaways on their page, where it's like, make sure to like this
Yeah,
post and
yeah.
like tag one person, and I'll give you like a product that makes sense. Like, I'm totally into that. Those are great. They're not scammy. They feel very authentic and personal. My issue is with loop giveaways, which are a mess of a situation. First of all, and people always yell at me when I say this, but I'm telling you, it happens. There's 1000% companies out there running these giveaways where there is no real winner who wins them. Like, that has been confirmed to me by people in the know. I know there was a big scandal with one like a couple of years ago. Like, it happens. So you need to, like, if you're gonna get involved in this world, like, you need to do your research and be careful, because some of them are really scammy. That doesn't sit well with me. Like, knowing that exists in like the firm world is like, oh my God, like, it's gross. Second issue is that if you are like, you know what, I'm a small account, I need to get my face out there, I'm going to join a couple of these, strategically mix them in with my content, I'm going to have a strategy. You know what, I don't really have a problem. I hate loop giveaways, and I'm not going to join it, but like, I understand what you're trying to do. My issue is with these accounts who join a giveaway every single week, and then their page is just the giveaway page. And then the next week, all of a sudden, they're going on their Instagram stories and they're complaining about how terrible the Instagram algorithm is. You know why the Instagram algorithm is so terrible for you? Because the only thing on your page is giveaways. That's where I really have the problem. And that's where people, like, they stop reading. Like, when I post these things, they stop reading after like, I hate giveaways, and they're just like, I have to do this because of my business and this and that. I'm like, but you also need to have content. And as a consumer, like, I should never see you on Instagram stories complaining about the Instagram algorithm. You're a business, I'm a consumer. That's an inappropriate like boundary. Like, I shouldn't know that information. You know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of unprofessional. It's really uncomfortable. And also, it's like, hello, I know why the algorithm isn't working for you. First of all, like,
You're saying
and
what's unprofessional? The fact that they're just entering the giveaways and not
no,
providing enough content? Or, oh,
that
that they're
they'll,
telling you.
yeah, that they'll rant about like the Instagram algorithm won't work for me.
Right.
I'm suffering so much. Like, to me, that's an inappropriate like relationship between like the viewer and the like account. Like, you have to do your research and figure out why the algorithm isn't working for you. There's a lot of reasons, but one of them might be because you're joining a lot of giveaways. these giveaways also, like, apparently, I was reading up on this earlier this year, like, apparently they're totally against Instagram's, like, privacy laws. I don't fully understand all the details with that, but, like, I believe that a lot of these things are getting more and more suppressed as well. Also, like, if you're an influencer who wants to break into, like, break out of just working with from brands and work with, like, bigger brands, like, they won't, a lot of them aren't going to work with you if you do these lube giveaways, because it's starting to be seen as like a negative X on your account. So if you really want to, like, break out of this market, like, that's going to end up not being great for you as a brand. Like, I 1000% see the positive side of, like, joining a couple to get your name out there, get people to see you. But I just think there needs to be, like, an end date, and you can't join them every week because it's so much. And then you, like, I don't know anyone who says that they like them.
Right.
I'm trying to find someone. Only people I know who say they like them have participated in them at some point. Yeah. So it's very like, okay, I get it. Like, you like them because they gave you followers. But even I know some accounts who tried them out and was like, oh my God, like, my engagement went from here to here. Why would I ever do that again?
Mm-hmm. Right.
But as a consumer, as a viewer, I don't know anyone that's like, yes, I love them. Right. I know a lot of people who have fake accounts set up so they could join these giveaways, because obviously people love free stuff, but that's not really helping anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Because then the engagement is low. You're getting all these accounts that are not even active. And for us, like, engagement is actually the most important thing for a business, for a brand, for an influencer. I mean, I could tell right away just by looking at your account, I could tell your engagement is phenomenal. You know, based on, like, the responses you're getting.
Yeah.
And you're not even like, I
don't know. Like, it's all, like, anecdotal. Like, it does seem like my engagement is very high, but I'm not, like, my account is just a regular personal account. So I don't have any analytics. Like, I could not tell you. I don't have any extra apps downloaded. I don't look into that stuff. It's like, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me what the numbers are. It just matters to me, like, the experience of engaging with people. Like, I know when I get, that is so much more important to me. But as a brand, of course, you need to look at that. And I always tell people, like, you need to look at your engagement metrics, because that's what's going to decide things. And also your retention metrics. Like, I don't know if Instagram shows that or not, but you need to know how many followers you're actually retaining when you do these things, and how many you're losing when you do these things, because people do lose.
Right.
It's a really tricky spot to be in. And, like, people hate people who have brands and other influencers. Like, when I talk about this, like, they hate it. They get so mad at me. And I'm like, listen, like, this isn't a secret. Like, I'm not the only person talking about this, and I'm not personally attacking you for what you're doing. I'm just saying, like, you might want to be careful, and you might be, like, making your followers who love your account, like, upset. Like, there are people that I follow that join so many giveaways, and it makes me sad, because as a follower, like, I love them. I love their content, and, like, I miss it. Like, it's gone for me. And, like, I'm someone who is, like, super engaged and I want to be part of it. But I feel like every time I go to their account, it's just like another giveaway. And I'm like, it's not interesting.
Right. Well, thank you for your commentary on that. That's whoever's listening to this interview who is an influencer or has a brand, it's something to think about. It's really important to keep that, you know, genuinity and that authenticity in your page as well. And not just to show people that you're just trying to sell a product. There has to be some connection with the product and the brand and the people that you're trying to sell it to. Okay, so Ricki, let's turn this conversation to something that you've spoken about a lot, and it's, Baruch Hashem, something that happened to you this year. Thank God you met your husband this past year, and your wedding was quite an interesting event.
Yeah.
Ricki Steiner, everyone, got married literally at the pinnacle of COVID-19, like the beginning, when everything was locking down. So, Ricki, can you tell the audience, first of all, how you met your husband,
Yeah.
all of that, and then let's talk about the wedding.
So my husband and I were set up through Cellular Sinai. It's like
Nice.
not a cute story, but like, hey, it can work.
It's a great website.
I have my plus and minuses hangups with that website. I think it can be better, but it works. Like if you can fight through a lot of the frustration, like it can work. I knew his brother, or I like my best friend's married to a friend of his brother, so I like kind of knew about the family, and he was already living in Teaneck, single. So I some of my friends knew him, so I kind of got the like, okay, he's really nice, like I could vouch for him, and I felt comfortable knowing that like I knew of his family. Like it seems like a really good opportunity. Our first date was the worst date I've ever been on. Like it was terrible. Like it was like everything that every like woman ever says. Like I felt like I was being interviewed. I felt like there was no connection. I felt like it was just like awkward and uncomfortable, and like so many uncomfortable things kept happening. But I left that date feeling so frustrated, because I felt like if he had stopped interviewing me and instead we just had like actual conversation, it would have gone somewhere, because I felt like we did like have so much in common, and I felt like there could have been so much potential. Like I literally went home to my roommates and I was like, he's gonna close the match, like that's it. And I'm so upset because I feel like we really could have gone somewhere. And then like 2 days later, he texted me to go out again, and I was shocked. I was like floored. And like every date, things just got like better and better and better and better. But it was like, it was slow. Like it was very slow. It took us a very, very, very long time to get close. I mean, not very long. Like obviously we only dated for 8 months. Like we're from Jews. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but like slower than other people. Like I felt like that was a thing that I needed normalized for me, because I felt like everyone around me was meeting these guys and knowing instantly, and they were having this like magical, like powerful moment. And I was questioning all the time, and I felt like we were moving so much slower than everybody else. My friends were talking about like, oh, so and so and so and so, they talk for hours every night and they're getting so close, and I was not doing that at all. Like we both hate the phone. Like he's a terrible texter. Like it took a lot of time. So I do think in a way, like our dating experience is very different, because you're used to these like very fast, very fiery stories, and we were not that at all. And like we started talking about like marriage, I still like had so many questions, and I was still really left wondering. But I kind of like had to take like a leap of faith, kind of like he wanted to marry me. I was terrified. I was confused. Like I knew I loved him. I knew I would love to spend my life with him, but I still had so many questions and confusion in my head. And I kind of felt like I'm never going to get the answers to all these questions unless I get married. But like, I really struggled like through our engagement. I was so terrified. There were so many what ifs flying around my head. Like I really wasn't sure. Like I think I was sure once we got married, and then I woke up and I was like, yeah, like this is my life. Like this is how it's supposed to be. But I had to just have faith for real. Like
That's really, really fascinating, Ricki. For those who are listening right now, it just comes to show you that just because you are going through these difficult emotions and you're questioning things, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the
yeah,
situation. It actually, go through the questions. It's okay to have self-doubt. It's okay to have uncertainty. It doesn't mean that you have to run away from it. Work with it
yeah,
and see where it will take you. You're showing people that it doesn't have to be all passionate and love at first sight, and
yeah.
all these fantasies in the beginning of what people think that a dating experience should look like. So thank you for sharing that. That's really, really beautiful and touching. So, okay, so you went from that dating experience, and thank God you decided to take a leap of faith. to
Yeah.
go forward with it, even though you still had some hesitation. And okay, so you got engaged. What month was it?
November.
Okay,
We
so
got
we still had
engaged.
some time.
Yeah, yeah, we had a little bit of time. We got engaged at the end of November and we knew we wanted to get married in March. So, I had those like months of still questioning, but like at the same time, also to your like last point, I was in therapy. So all the questions and stuff, like people often ask me, okay, but like, how do you know when it's like a red flag versus when it's just a question? And I'm like, well, I was in therapy. So every time I had like an issue or something that I was like nervous about or just feeling like all this nervous energy, like I had a professional to talk through this with. And I really uncovered and unpacked that the issue was not the relationship. The issue was my internalized fears that were due to like other things happening in the world. Like it had nothing to do with my husband David at all. It had nothing to do with like marriage per se. It had to do with my own fears in general about getting married. So it was important for me to understand that. But yeah, so I planned the entire wedding. We really didn't have like help in that area. So that was like a whole other like craziness. Like I was like sitting at work, like in between meetings, like answering emails from vendors, figuring out a plan a wedding. Um, and I was really excited about it. Like I think the wedding was really going to be something special and unique and like what we really wanted. Since I work in travel, when Corona like started becoming an issue globally, like I knew, like I sort of tell people like I knew it was going to be an issue a lot sooner than I feel like a lot of people around me knew, because I was going to work every day watching the world shut down before like a lot of people even like knew it was a problem. I remember like sitting in the office finding out about the first case in New York City thinking like that's it, that's my wedding, like just wait, in 2 days this is going to blow up. And that's kind of what happened. Like
Yeah. Yep.
it really like spiraled so fast. So oh my God, it was so crazy. Like right before Purim, like a few days before Purim, I basically like at that point it still seemed like maybe we would contain this, maybe we'd be able to have the wedding, maybe it wouldn't like become
Blow
such a
up.
big deal so fast. So I had basically emailed work and been like, I'm not coming in anymore because I don't want to risk getting sick because I'm getting married in 2 weeks. And they were like, hey, cool, that's fine. And then basically 2 days later, all of a sudden it became optional to go into the office anyway. And then like 2 days after that, the office was closed. Like everything was happening so fast. And
Wow.
David and I started having really, really painful, difficult conversations.
Yeah.
We officially canceled our like wedding, like big wedding, like a week and a half before. We just knew it was irresponsible. We knew it was like potentially possible. Like it still seemed maybe like we could do it. Turns out we absolutely couldn't have. But like at the time, it still seems like maybe. But we were both sitting there and we're like, it's so irresponsible. Like it's just not. This is not what we should be doing right now. Like people are getting so sick. Like this is not okay. I remember it was a Thursday and like I remember he left work early and like drove. He works really deep into New Jersey, like far away. He like drove as fast as he could to the city, and like I figured out what to do, and I came back to Teaneck with him, and we are gonna make a plan, and we canceled everything, and we planned this like beautiful backyard wedding. It's very funny actually, like I was never so wedding minded, and then I kind of like got into it, but like my family always joked that I was going to like end up getting married in one of my cousin's backyards. And then I was able to like literally plan a beautiful backyard wedding in her backyard. Like I had the most beautiful ever like backyard wedding plan.
Oh, I know.
I was so excited. Basically like at that point I was done, and I looked at David and I said, I just planned this entire huge wedding, spent so much of my own money. I can't do this part. I can't cancel it. Like, I can't handle that. And I don't know if I can plan the next thing. Like, can you do this? and can you call these people and have them help you? So like a lot of my parents' friends stepped in at that point. Like that was the point where I was like, I need help now. So
Right.
a lot of them helped him. I told everyone, please communicate with David. Like I can't do it. I can't do it. Like I'm done. Like I'm just done. And he, within under a week, we had like something so beautiful planned, had a ton of help. And then things kept getting worse. Like during the week, it became clear. I remember, no, earlier than that, it became clear my brother was not going to be able to come in from Israel. Like I remember sitting in one of the conference rooms at work, sobbing on the phone with him because he told me there was just no way he was going to be able to come. And that was when I realized I needed to stop going into the office because I was literally sobbing uncontrollably, like at work. And, you know, later on the week, my dad is older. He has diabetes. He's at risk. I already lost my mom, so I'm very sensitive. And like him and my stepmom messaged me and they were like, I don't know, like what's gonna be. David's on the phone with his parents and his siblings, and they're like, nothing is gonna stop us. Like we can beat anything. And I called my dad one night and I said, don't come. You can't come. You can't be here. Like I don't know what's gonna happen, but you can't come here. So already, like, I knew I wasn't gonna have any of my immediate family there, which is like, I cannot explain how painful of a decision that was, and like a realization, like to know you're doing one of the biggest like things in your life and your family is not going to be there. I had like my aunt and my uncle and my cousins because they live in New Jersey. Like I knew they would like be at anything, but to not have your parents, to not have your siblings, like it's terrible. It's terrible. So we were
Your
supposed to get
story is
married.
bringing me to tears, actually. I don't
And
know if you can see it.
I'm also like getting so emotional. It really makes me so emotional. And I think like it's just a wedding, but it breaks my heart. David's too. So we were supposed to get married on March 22nd, a Sunday, and the weekend is approaching and like situation is getting really bad. And my cousins are messaging me and my aunt, like, do you really think it's a good idea to still have this wedding on Sunday? Like, I'm starting, because I'm the type of person who, you know, just feels everybody else's emotions and feels like a burden, guilty and whatever. I'm freaking out. And at that point, like it's Friday. I'm staying in my aunt and uncle's and I'm already like feeling so guilty for staying because they're older and at risk as well. I'm already like, oh my God, I shouldn't be here. I'm going to make them sick. Like something bad's going to happen. David's family was able to come in from LA. They're staying in Airbnb in Teaneck. Like I'm on Friday, by that point, like I'm like so fried and I'm screaming at him on the phone, like, please, let's just get married today. Please, let's just figure it out. Let's just get married today. If we don't get married today, like I'm scared it's not going to happen. Things are getting really bad. I'm feeling like sick to my stomach. Like I'm a mess. Like I can't even explain what a mess I was at that point. We didn't. He was like, no, we're getting married on Sunday. But at that point, like my anxiety was so high, like I couldn't like not be with him. Like that was the only way that I was going to feel safe. So like I ended up like eating with him and his family, like Friday night, and like Shabbos afternoon, I saw him again. And like, it didn't matter anymore to not see him, whatever. Like I couldn't physically like do it. Like I was such a disaster of a person. And I went back with him on Shabbos day to like hang out at the Airbnb with his parents, whatever. And I got this horrible migraine and my entire body was just like a mess. And this happens to me sometimes. Like I'm very sensitive to like things happening in the world. And I very often on Shabbos, if something happened, like I'll know in my body. And I just knew like we were going to turn our phones on and there was going to be a complete lockdown. Like I knew it. I didn't say anything to anyone, but I would like knew it.
You're so intuitive with
It
everything.
was, yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. So my mother-in-law turned her phone on after Shabbat, like immediately. And she like yells out like, oh, insert swear word here. And she reads her sister-in-law had texted her the executive order that the governor of New Jersey sent out that basically said, it was so crazy. It was like, I don't know, let's say it was like 7:30 p.m. By 9 o'clock that night, New Jersey was done. Like everything was going to be completely shut down in executive order. If you break it, like it's a problem. Like literally, I look at David. It says in the executive order, like weddings are not allowed. I look at David and I said, we are leaving right now. He's like, what do you mean? I said, we are getting married tonight. We are leaving right now. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, get in the car.
Ricki, I'm so crazy.
We're going back to like what would be our apartment. Like we're going home. We're figuring this out. And he was like, how are you going to make this happen? And I was like, watch me. So get back to like what's going to be our apartment. I text my aunt, like everyone, so many people are texting me and I'm like throwing that all away. I text my aunt and uncle. I text one of my best friends and I say, I need a rabbi in Teaneck who will marry us outside. We'll get 10 men or whatever we need. And we'll use a tallis. Like I need them now. We have to get married before 9 o'clock. Within 10 minutes, I had 3 rabbis. 10 minutes later, there was a rabbi who's like a very big, like esteemed rabbi walking into our apartment, signing our ketubah. So basically, like in our complex, we have like a WhatsApp group. So David was like texting. It's like for a minion. He was literally texting.
I'm going.
He
so
texted
much
in the WhatsApp group. There's gonna be a wedding here at this within 10 minutes. I need a count. Usually they go, we need a minion. Can everybody count off? So we make sure we have 10 minutes. He goes, I need a minion for a wedding in 10 minutes. Can everyone count off? And they're like, what? But they just go with it. Like some are like, what are you doing? But also at the same time, men are just like 1, 2, 3, 4. They're just like on it. And I didn't know this at the time, but there was a women's chat group as well. And they just like jumped into action. A couple of them followed me on Instagram. So they like knew kind of the deal, but like they just like started working with each other. Like, let's bring out our flowers so we can make it nice. Like we'll make an aisle out of tablecloths. Like, let's figure out like what my neighbor showed up with like the tiara she had worn at her wedding. She was like, please put this on. Like I didn't, I like kept turning things down, but like everyone just jumped so fast. And it was like the craziest thing. And like, it was just crazy.
So touching.
I was like completely barefaced. My hair was in like a messy bun. I like ripped the thing out, but I didn't have a brush. So like you could see in like the picture, like my hair is so gross. David screaming at me. My dress was at my aunt's. David screaming at me, get your dress, because I'm like in a like little t-shirt dress and leggings and sneakers. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready to get married. He's like,
oh my God.
He's putting a suit on. He's like, call your aunt, get your dress. Like, what are you thinking? So I at least had like my dress.
Wow.
It was also like a really interesting like halachic puzzle for the rabbi who married us, because he had to figure out how to make this wedding like as short and condensed as possible and figure out what's important, what's not important. How do we like, my bedekin was 2 seconds, like just stand over there for a second. Okay, great. Like this is your bedekin. He's going to put like the veil. Like he was like, I think it was like a fun little like thing. And everyone's begging me like, let's go live. Like, let's film this, whatever. And I'm telling them like, no, the police are going to shut us down. Like, I don't want anyone to know this is happening. Like it has to be a secret. Like it really felt like we kind of were breaking the law, but like, because it did go after 9 a little bit, but like, it really felt like, under the cover of darkness, like we're doing this top secret, like wedding, not to compare it really, but like my mom's parents got married in a DP camp, like the same day as like 17 other couples, like under these horrific, situations. Yeah. And it is not the same at all, but it was still that like small, tiny connection of like, my grandparents had to do something crazy like this too. Like I had this moment where like I put on this dress and all of a sudden someone was like, they're ready. Like, come on, you're getting married.
Wow, Ricki.
And I like walked out of my apartment expecting to just see 10 men. And I see like the entire apartment complex. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is what I was supposed to do the whole time. Like, this is how I was supposed to get married. It was always supposed to be like this. Like, this is my wedding. And started sobbing uncontrollably, and the rabbi's like, "Are you really sure you want to get married?" I'm like, "No, it's not. I
Yes.
can't." Like, this is just very emotional, but he's like, "Are you sure?" Because I'm like sobbing because I can't believe what people had done for us. And it didn't hit me until like halfway through the chuppah, which was like only 12 minutes. Like, it's literally, my friends came from down the street and filmed it. It's
Yes.
literally 12 minutes. Every chuppah should be 12 minutes. It's 12 minutes long, and you could see me like in the video, like turn to David, and I remember this moment so clearly, being like, "Is this real? Like, we're getting married right now? Like, this is really happening?" He's, "Yeah," and I'm like crying. I'm like, "Oh my god!" It was crazy. I was terrified. I was so scared someone was going to get sick. We were going to be responsible. It turns out there were plenty of people there who were sick, because everyone was sick at that time,
Right.
and like no one knew what was happening.
You.
No one knew anything, and like it just, we tried. There was no, like, David and I danced together, but like we wouldn't let anybody else like touch or do anything. Like, we just kind of like stood in circles. Like, people had, like, I guess, some gloves, and there was some hand sanitizer. Like, we tried to do what we could. Like, we knew some things, but really didn't know much at all. And then it was like, okay, like, go inside, like, happy quarantine.
Wow, Ricki. I could say so many things about your wedding, but one thing that's really, really sticking to me is that you were severely like anxious at the time.
Oh
And
my god, I was so scared.
you were terrified, you were anxious, you were panicking, and you used that to your benefit. You used
Yeah,
it, instead of running away, you went forward with it and you made this wedding happen. And I feel like if you didn't have that, maybe the wedding wouldn't have happened.
it wouldn't have. If we would have not, like, David's parents are from LA, like, they're super chill. They're like, "Don't worry, just wait till tomorrow. You'll have your wedding. It'll be so beautiful." It wouldn't have happened. I know people who got married that day that the police showed up to their wedding. It also would have been so like, I know how incredibly irresponsible it would have been to have all of our families together, like, having this wedding. Like, it would have even though it wasn't huge, it had, like, I think 30 people planned to be there, but even that, like, at the time, was so risky. um but yeah, it's pretty it's kind of common for me, when I get really anxious, and at that point where it's like energized anxious energy, that's what pushes me to take action, like, for real. And I've always been like that my whole life. Like, I have really figured out how to fuel it, because I want to make myself feel better. Like, when I'm anxious, the first thing I want to do is figure out what will make me feel better. Well, the thing that would make me feel better in that moment was getting married and know it was done, and like, Zoe, like, we're safe, we're married. Like, we came back inside and people were texting us like, "Come outside, like, we want to dance, like, we want to do a l'chaim, like, we want to whatever." And like, I looked at David and I went, "You go back outside, do whatever you need to do. I'm putting on pajamas and I'm going to sit here, because my anxiety is so high right now. I'm so emotionally drained. I'm so overwhelmed. I can't do anything else. I'm done. I'm absolutely done." And it was okay.
There have been so many brides this year who couldn't have their dream wedding, and it's painful.
Yeah,
I've had a few callas that I had to be there for them through the pain and the grief, and
it's
it was
so hard.
grief. It was grief, and what you experienced was grief in a way, because grief is not just losing a loved one; it's
Yeah.
losing something that you were expecting, and you had this dream wedding that you were planning for months, and at the end of the story, your wedding was actually one of the most beautiful weddings I've ever heard about. And
Thank you.
as you were explaining the story, I'm like, you're moving me to tears. I'm trying to really hold my
It's
tears back.
it's such a crazy situation. I don't typically like the saying that, like, Hashem gives you the challenges that you can handle. Like, it doesn't sit well with me, but in this situation, like, it truly felt like, I'm not the only person who had a situation like this, for sure. And I know that, for, like, I've talked to other women who or couples who had the same situation, like, got married in a parking lot somewhere random. But it does really felt like this was a challenge given to me because somebody had to go through it and I could handle it and like make it happen. Like it did feel like in some sense, but on the other hand, it really feels like, and David and I just talked about this recently, like we had something ripped away from us. And I've already had a lot of things ripped away from me in life. So it's hard. I still cry about it a lot, and it feels like I'm really hard on myself. Like and so everyone has yelled at me for this, but I feel so stupid crying over the loss of the wedding. It feels so incredibly like yucky to me that I'm crying over this, but I am like, I'm so upset all the time. And like, there's nothing that's going to make up for it. Like there just isn't. Like we don't have any pictures, and talked about that a lot. It makes me really sad. And people are always like, go put on your dress, get your makeup done, take pictures. It's not the same. I'm going to know that they were done later. Like it's not the same as those, like, I want the authentic, like that's me. I want the authentic experience of the pictures of our wedding. We have a few like things that are really special and cute, but not like the nice pictures really that you could display and have forever. We don't have that like experience. But and we talk about having like a party later on because again, like the money is spent. It's all there. I lost a lot of money on this thing. And it's you know, I want to celebrate with people, of course, but it is not the same. And it's so hard. And I feel for everybody who's been in this position because everyone's having to do like crazy jump through hoops just to get married. I tell people all the time, like I do every so often get a message from someone and I tell everyone like, just get married, stop worrying about everything and just freaking get married. Like that's the best advice I could tell you because every single day, everything changes and you can make yourself crazy trying to work around all the regulations when really all you need is a chuppah. And someone the other day was like, I don't understand. You need a suda, you needed this, you needed that. I'm like, trust me, when it comes to health, those things all quickly disappear and you don't need to do any of that. Like you need to talk to a rabbi, like figure out what you actually need to do. Like it's just get married.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's really hard. And that's something I've talked about this on Instagram too. It's something that bothers me across all social media. Now it's become really trendy to be like, we should always have Corona weddings. Like all these brides are so lucky. And I'm like, no,
I haven't seen that actually.
I've seen a lot of it. I've seen a lot of it on like different Facebook groups. Like, oh my gosh, I wish that we could keep this forever where these little small intimate weddings are the trend. Or like I've seen people rant about it on Instagram for like content. Like, oh my gosh, I love how lucky these brides are. They get these like small intimate weddings. They don't have to worry about blah, blah, blah. But like, first of all, you could, in normal times, you could choose to have a small wedding. Like, an option. It's always an option. It really truly is. I didn't have any choices. Like they were all ripped away from me. And the same is true for all the brides that are planning weddings right now. They don't really have choices. They have to figure out like, is this legal or is that legal? Is this thing and that thing? Like it's not a fun, cute choice. It's what you have to do in order to like take this next step in your life. I mean, if we were still engaged now, like I think it would be the same thing where I would just be like, let's just have a chuppah. Like I don't want to deal with this. Like I don't want to deal with like figuring out, can I do this but not that? Like just have a chuppah outside, get it done. Don't worry about anything else.
You know, I really love your honesty about this because you're showing that this is such a nuanced, complicated situation where on one hand, yes, just get married, do the chuppah, go forward with it. But at the same time, it sucks. It sucks. And, you know, you're not sugarcoating anything. You still wanted that dream wedding. You're still upset that you didn't get those fancy pictures and the other extra things that other brides got to get. And
I mean, I couldn't even brush my hair. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't even like have like the basic things. Like my best friend posted to Instagram like, oh my God, like what a boss. Like my best friend's getting married and did her own makeup. And I texted her, what makeup? I have nothing on my face. I was like, I don't have good skin. You could see like I was covered in everything. And like, I did not look pretty at my wedding. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I didn't even get like the basics. I
Well,
was
I thought
wearing
you looked
black.
pretty. I thought you looked very pretty. But I
Thank you.
understand what you're saying. I mean, brides who have their lavish weddings, till this day, like 6 years later, they're still complaining about their dress. Oh, my hair wasn't the right way I
Yeah.
wanted. They're upset about the way they look in the pictures. And you are giving brides in this age of coronavirus a validating of feeling right now that it's okay that you're upset that you didn't have your dream wedding.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Oh
know,
my
there's,
gosh. Yeah.
yeah, there's people, there's influencers right now, like you said. Actually, now that you told me, now I'm noticing it.
Naturally.
Yeah, now I'm noticing that there are people like, what's the big deal? Who cares? Like,
It's a
just
big
have a
deal.
small wedding. You don't need to have all this. Like, no, you're speaking for the women who are getting married this year that it is hard. It is painful. So
It's so
thank you.
hard.
It
And
is.
like, yeah, it's really hard. It's really painful. And like I will say thank God, anytime that I've ever opened up about how I feel like so stupid for being so upset about this, people are like, Ricki, you're so hard on yourself. If I'm still upset about my pictures, and of course you're upset. Like people are really, really, really comforting to me when I do open up about this. Like I'm very thankful for that because like I have so much internalized guilt over the fact that I'm mourning the loss of my wedding. But for the most part, like really people understand and are really amazing about it. It's just like kind of like I want the world to realize that planning a corona wedding is the most stressful experience, whether it's a
Right.
situation like me where I had to like cancel and this and that. But like I know from people planning now or like who are planning earlier, like a few months ago, like it's a hellish experience.
Yeah.
It's so stressful. It's much more stressful than a regular wedding. It is like there's so many things that you have to figure out, and tensions are so high because everyone's so scared. It's just I want people to remember that like while you might look at these weddings and think, oh my God, so cute. I wish I could do like a small intimate wedding like Corona brides are so lucky. There's a lot of emotions behind the scenes that are really, really, really difficult, and it's so invalidating to that experience. And that's just like constantly my focus. Like we have to validate people's feelings even if we don't necessarily agree with them, and not like stop like invalidating others just because it's not like your personal experience.
Right. Beautiful. So, Ricki, I do have one last question for you. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. I can talk to you all day.
I
I
know.
really could. Your story is really beautiful. Um, how has loss, whether it was a loss of a loved one or the loss of, your dream wedding or anything, how has it shaped the person you are today?
I mean, completely shaped me. If I didn't suffer all the losses that I suffered, like I don't know who I would be, but I would be somebody completely different. I think it's made me a lot more like, I mean, I've always been an empath. Like I've always felt people's emotions very deeply, but I think it's allowed me to really take like myself out of situations and focus deeper on other people and how they're feeling, like very like exclusively for my own experience. Like I really can take myself out of a situation, my own personal thoughts out of a situation, and sit and listen to somebody else, even if I don't necessarily agree, and tell them like, you're amazing, you're incredible, like all of those things. I think it's made me very understanding as a person, accepting of like kind of anything. Like I'm ready for anything. I thrive in like chaos and emergency and everything. Like it's just made me be able to like jump, even though like that's not expected for someone with anxiety to be able to just like jump and do things, whatever. But it's taught me that like sometimes you just kind of have to like be in chaos and be comfortable in chaos. Like life is so unpredictable. I'm so thankful all the time for everything that I still have. I really focus on that too. Like I really focus on what I have, not what I don't have. What I don't have doesn't exist. Like it doesn't matter. I'm so focused on like the tiniest little things. And in general, and this is something I didn't realize was special until my husband told me, I'm a very appreciative person. I'm someone who all day long can tell someone like, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It means so much to me. And I didn't know that was hard for other people. And like I'm so appreciative for every little tiny thing my husband does. If he makes me coffee in the morning, I'm going on a whole like 20-minute rant about how much it means to me. Like I things like small things I think just mean a lot more to me than they mean to other people, and I'm able to communicate that, and I think that that's really unique, and I think that that's a direct correlation from having lost so much. It makes you appreciate what you do have so much more.
You've left me speechless, Ricki. We need more people like Ricki Steiner in the world.
Oh, thank you.
We really do. Ricki, can you tell the audience where they can find you if they want to connect with you?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram at Ricki Steiner. That's really where I live. There's not a lot going on in my life right now. So Instagram has definitely been like my buddy, because like,
awesome.
I don't know, like what else do you do? How else do you socialize? But that's where you can find me. And yeah, I'm there every day.
Thank you so much, Ricki, for your time and
Thank you
sharing your stories and inspiring us to be better people.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me. It's so fun to like, you know, we've been following each other for so many years, and it's like, it's so fun to connect finally in this kind of way.
Really, it really does. I really got to see you in a different light today.
Yeah.
Got to see more of the good that you do just by talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.